On Cultural Agenda this evening, we welcome Alex Moore Minot, who is a Maroon political analyst and former Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Accompong Maroons, and he will share his views on the importance of cultural retentions in the formation of a Jamaican constitution and republic. Welcome, Alex. How are you?
Hello. Pleasant night. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you perfectly.
Fantastic.
Um,
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I want to find out from you this proposal of cultural retention in the formation of a Jamaican constitution and republic. What is it that you are proposing as the core idea or the core suggestion for what, a new Jamaican constitution?
Yes, well, look, at the end of the day, there's no nation without a national identity. And people, any person, any individual is defined by their culture. You know, that's who they are, that's who their ancestors have always been. And without roots, a tree must die. So if we are unable to know where we're coming from, as they always say, we will not know where we're going. So it is very important that a republic, a sovereign Jamaica, takes into consideration the experiences of the people, what our ancestors have been through, where our ancestors are coming from, who our ancestors were, and what that would mean for us today. We have to consider, we can't just, you know, I think that it is totally counterproductive to become a people with a broad brush culture that is just, you know, a conveniently packaged thing for tourism or whatever. I think that we need to remember our origins, we need to remember our roots so that we can chart a serious course towards the future. It's the way I see it.
And specifically, what are you thinking of, even as the government thinks of crafting, well, we're heading towards a republic status and perhaps relooking at our constitution. What are you hoping for? Recognition, for example, a kind of pride of place in terms of how we see indigenous groups such as the Maroons? What exactly are you hoping for?
Well, definitely. I think that there has to be a constitution that, you know, doesn't just say out of many we're one people, but still remembers that we are many and still remembers that we have a serious history. As a matter of fact, we must always remember, even the British acknowledged the Maroon Wars as war and not a rebellion or anything like that. It was a serious situation for our ancestors. It was a situation that, as they say, sweat, blood, and tears. You know, so that is not a history that can be wiped away. That's not a history that can be ignored. And a part of that history is the self-governance. I'm not saying sovereignty, I'm not speaking to, and I don't really want to get down into any of that right now, but the Maroons have a tribal system of self-governance, which is, I would say, a bit stronger than what we would know as local government, right? So in other words, there is no political agenda when it comes down to the Maroons. Maroon leadership serves only the Maroons, right? And it's not really at the beck and call of anybody else. But at the same time, we are a part of a national fabric just the same. We are on the same landmass. We have shared history. And it is important that that also is recognized and we find a way to reconcile with each other, especially where there are cultural differences, where there are historical issues. We find a way to reconcile and move forward with an identity.
What does that mean for the actual recrafting, putting together, construction of a constitution for a republic? How do you expect to see that actually represented in the constitution?
Well, there has to be within the constitution, without a doubt, recognition of the indigenous groups on the island. And as according to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of indigenous people are entitled to self-determination. They are entitled to self-governance. Therefore, it's the way I see it is a modern constitution, a sovereign constitution, where the people are king and queen, is one that would recognize the indigenous people and their contribution and allow them to build themselves based on their beliefs and based on their cosmovision and govern themselves while still participating positively in an overall national fabric.
You know, I hear and I'm understanding some of what you're saying, but I'm still thinking about how that looks if it becomes a part of the reality of our governance.
It doesn't have to change a thing. Look, all right, for example, there are many jurisdictions, there are many places the world over that recognize the self-governance of indigenous people. Why, for example, even Jamaica alone has local government, right? And there is a possibility already for town municipalities that have their own charters, that would be able to collect their own taxes and run their affairs independently from central government. It wouldn't be anything outlandish, right? It would just be that you have these special communities, they continue to govern themselves, take care of their affairs, and as I said, they contribute to a national fabric where through things like agricultural produce, tourism, etc., they have the opportunity to give back to the national fabric.
All right, so since you went there, so outside of governance issues, if we talk about cultural retention for these indigenous groups, what else should we, as we go towards a republic, what are the other things we need to look at outside of governance issues in terms of preserving our culture and ensuring that it gets that pride of place and that the entire nation appreciates?
We need to look at education because everything starts with a child. Everything starts at home. Everything starts with family. So education is first priority. Anything that a child learns at school, these are the attitudes that they tend to take with them right throughout life. So therefore, we need books in school that recognize the rich history of our people. So for example, at this point in time, we are launching what we like to call the Boston Bendt Project. And that project literally is just a linkage of young people from here, some indigenous being Maroons otherwise, have been invited to Suriname to rebuild a bridge because there are historic links between us and the Maroons in Suriname through culture, language, etc. And they've invited us to spend time with them and to learn from them and to bring back culture, stories, etc. from the jungle. So what would that look like? That would look like children's books. That would look like high school books. That would be stories that people can relate to.
All right, Alex, unfortunately we have to end it there, but thank you very much for joining us this evening.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
We take a look now at what's on our social media platforms with Cleo Anderson.